Hi guys, this is Sai Madhav. I'm a qualified cost accountant. This is the second video of this series of revision lectures. In this video, we will be discussing about SA 300 and 400 series. Okay, now we already discussed this process of auditing. First, the auditor will be engaged as per SA 210. Then he will obtain the knowledge of client's business as per 315. Then he will plan the audit in accordance with 300. Then he will perform audit procedures and he will obtain audit evidence as per these standards. Now he will obtain documentation, okay, and based on this documentation he will perform some procedures. In this video we will discuss about those, and finally he will form conclusion and report as per SS 700 series and CARO. Okay, this is the overall process of auditing, right? Now first we are starting with SA 300. The name of the standard is Planning and Audit of Financial Statements. Okay, there is a saying that an hour of planning can reduce 10 hours of your work. Okay, that is the importance of planning. Before starting an audit, you have to plan your audit in such a way that it is efficient and effective and time bound. Okay, because you will be having limited time and cost. There are two types of audit. First one is recurring audit and initial audit. Initial audit means first time audit. Recurring means subsequent audits. Okay, we have already discussed about initial audit in SA 220. Okay, now in recurring audit there are some preliminary engagement activities. Okay, preliminary means starting activities. What are those? You have to check whether continuance of client relationship as per SA 220 is satisfied or not. We have discussed there, guys. Okay, and compliance with ethical requirements as per SA 220. Independence, objectivity, independence of your whole engagement team. Okay, you have to see those as per SA 220. And understanding terms of engagement as per SA 210. We have seen terms of engagement as per SA 210. You have to understand all those. These are the preliminary engagement activities. Now, after this, you have to go for planning activities. Planning activities are divided into two types: overall audit strategy and development of audit plan. Okay, overall audit strategy. What are the characteristics of the audit you are doing? Reporting objectives. Who are you reporting to? What is the purpose of your reporting? Engagement team efforts. What is your engagement team composition? What are their effects directed to? Okay. Results of preliminary engagement. The results of all those above. You have to see those. And knowledge of other engagements. See, you may have done some tax audits or some physical verification audits, etc. The results of those, the knowledge of those, whether it is applicable here or not. NTE of resources necessary. Okay, nature, timing, and extent of resources necessary. This all you have to consider while planning an audit. Okay, and you have to develop an audit such that it consider the NTE of planned risk assessment procedure as per SA 315 and planned further audit procedure as per SA 330 and other planned audit procedures. We will discuss all of this in respective standards. We will document all of those as per this standard. Okay, we will document this here. Now this is as per recurring audit. Now what about initial audit? Initial audit means first time audit. When you're doing audit for the first time, you have to consider all of these which you have discussed here plus additional consideration, that is acceptance of client relationship as per SA 220. See, here it is continuance of client relationship because it is subsequent further audit. You have already done one time. So it is known as continuance. But here you have to see whether you have to accept or not because it is the first time. Now, a small question for you guys. In which of the following, initial audit or recurring audit, will the auditor do more work? The answer is initial audit because initial audit is first time audit. He has no knowledge, he has rare knowledge or experience with the client. So he'll have to do more work to plan the audit. Okay. Now, Before going to essay 320 materiality, we should have an idea about aggregate value of misstatements. Okay, this is a small example by which you can understand it easily. Suppose there are 1000 transactions. Obviously, you cannot verify all of those 1000. You'll go by sampling method. Suppose you have verified 700 of those and 300 you have not verified. Okay, this 700 you have found some. You can take any example of number. You have found some misstatements in those 700. Now you take a bucket and you put those misstatements here. Misstatements identified during the audit by the auditor in the 700. Okay, this is the first part. This 300 you have not verified. In those 300 also there is a possibility of misstatements. Okay, you cannot say all 300 are misstatements, or you cannot say none of them are misstatements. There is a possibility of happening. You can take by ratio also. In 700, if these are the misstatements, in 300, what are those? You can, okay. Misstatements unidentified by the auditor. Of course, these are unidentified because you have not verified those. So these are the misstatements unidentified by the auditor. Plus net effect of uncorrected misstatements of previous years. Previous years also there might have misstatements. Okay, those previous year misstatements will affect this opening year balances and this closing year balance also. So they will affect current financial statements also. So these three as a whole we'll call as aggregate value of misstatements. Okay, now the first and last one, what are those? Misstatements identified and net effect of uncorrected misstatements. Those two are called as together uncorrected misstatements. This second one, misstatements unidentified by the auditor, is known as undetected misstatements. Okay, in the following standards you will be hearing the words undetected and uncorrected misstatements. So when you see this, you should remember this bucket. Okay, remember the example is 700, 300, identified, unidentified, uncorrected misstatement of previous years. Okay, now this is essay 320, materiality in planning and performing audit. Okay, so first, what is materiality? Anything that influences the judgments of users of financial statements. Okay, because we are doing the audit for the purpose of users. They are the ones who take judgments on the basis of financial statements. So anything that influences the judgment of financial statements users is nothing but materiality. This is highly subjective term, guys. Okay, financial reporting framework will discuss materiality generally. Okay, generally FRF will be discussing what is materiality. Generally, misstatements including omissions are material. Misstatements including omissions are material when if they influence the economic decisions of users. Okay, size and nature of misstatements are both. Okay, see size and nature. See if an entity is having 100 crores turnover, for that entity 1 crore may be material. Suppose a entity has 10 crores turnover, for that entity 10 lakhs may be material. So it is highly subjective. So size is material. And nature of misstatement, suppose even if there is 1 lakh that is not paid to GST authorities, the nature is GST amount, so it is material. Depending on the nature also, we should discuss the materiality of misstatement or both of them, combination of both. Okay, consider the common financial information needs of users as a group. See, you should divide the groups and you should consolidate them into groups. Okay, for example, all shareholders, equity shareholders into one group. Okay, all the debenture holders into one group, all the investors into one group. You cannot take them individually and cater their needs. Okay, so you should take them into a group. Now, assumptions about users. See, if you take example of a public limited company, there will be lakhs of shareholders. There will be many users of financial statements. You cannot cater their needs, individual needs of everyone. So you'll be taking some assumptions. Okay, what are those assumptions? First one, users have a reasonable knowledge of business and economic activities. They should be having a reasonable knowledge of what the client is doing, what the company is doing, and everything. Second, Understand that financial statements are prepared, presented, and audited to the levels of materiality. They should be having knowledge of materiality. So, recognize the uncertainties inherent in the measurement of amounts. That is, estimates and judgments are involved in the preparation of financial statements. They should be having knowledge of that also. And based on the information available, they should be making reasonable economic decisions. So these are all assumptions we have to take about users. Okay, because see, most of the users, they are not aware of financial statements. They don't know what the audit report is. So you cannot go to them and explain everything. Okay, so you have to make some assumptions such that you can give an audit report. Otherwise, you cannot give a report, right? Now, based on SA 320, you'll be setting a materiality level. Okay, this will provide a basis for next standards SA 315 and 330. We will discuss those. Okay. Now, what is performance materiality? Okay, this materiality amount is set by the auditor in planning stage. We have planned as per SA 300 na. So in the planning stage we will set a materiality amount. Okay, now actually performing the audit, you have come across various situations, so you have to change the materiality amount. Okay, the original materiality is planning materiality. This is known as performance materiality. This can be at overall financial statement level or individual level, individual class of transaction, account balances, disclosures. Okay, now what is performance materiality? Amount or amounts set aside by the auditor such that, okay, it should be less than materiality of financial statement as a whole. For example, if the materiality is 1 lakh, this should be less than 1 lakh. It may be 90,000, 80,000, whatever it is. Okay. Now, how should it be set? This bucket we have taken the example now. Aggregate value of misstatements. It should be having a low probability of exceeding materiality. Okay. This misstatements should not exceed materiality. So you should set up performance materiality such that it should have a very low probability of exceeding materiality level. Understood? No. The important part of this standard is benchmark materiality. What is benchmark? You are taking something and comparing to one thing. That is known as benchmark. Dash percentage of dash. What is this? You are applying some percentage on some element of financial statements. For example, instead of setting a number such as 5 lakh as materiality, you'll be taking a percentage. For example, 10% of net assets or 5% of PAT or 7% of gross profits, whatever it is, you'll be taking a percentage of some elements of financial statements. Now, this percentage will be completely based on professional judgment. It will be based on your experience and everything. Okay. Now, what is this? Here you will be taking elements of financial statement. Elements means PAT, net assets, gross profit, net profit, capital employed, whatever it is. Okay. Now, attention of users. You should take attention of users because who are using the financial statements? According to them, you have to take this. Okay. For them, gross profit may be important. For some, net profit may be important. For bankers, net assets may be important. Like that. Nature of entity. What is the nature of entity? If it is a capital intensive entity, it will be more advisable to take net assets. If it is a profit oriented, it will be advisable to take net profit. Okay. Ownership structure. What is the ownership structure? If it is debt free or it has debt, okay, you can take debt equity ratio or like that. Okay. Relative volatility of benchmark. You should see whether the benchmark is continuously changing, then you will take 1%. If it is constant, you'll be applying constant percentage like that. Okay. This is the whole view about SA 320 materiality in planning and performing an audit. Okay. Now SA 450 evaluation of misstatement. Okay. Now first we have decided what is materiality, and we also know what is aggregate value of misstatement, that is bucket. Now we will compare this bucket with materiality. This is dealt in SA 450. Now, what is a misstatement? Misstatement is the difference between these two. What is this? How to be recorded as per applicable FRF. versus how it is actually recorded. The difference is nothing but misstatement. Now, we should decide whether it is material or not as per SA 320. Okay. Now, what is the objective? Evaluate effect of identified misstatements on the audit. 2. Effect of uncorrected misstatements, if any, on the financial statements. You remember this? I told in this bucket, identified, uncorrected. Now we'll be comparing these two. Okay. This materiality we can reassess if required. In the performing, we can reassess the materiality if required. Okay. Now communicate misstatements to management to correct. If you identify any misstatements, you should communicate to management and advise to correct. If management refuses to correct, then obtain an understanding why it is not correcting. Okay. In the second stage, communicate uncorrected misstatements to TCWG. See, first, if management corrects, there is no issue. If it is not correcting, you should obtain understanding and you should communicate uncorrected misstatements to TCWG to correct and their effect on opinion in auditor's report. And if not corrected, what is the effect on auditor's report? You have to consider that. That is, you will modify or you will disclaim the opinion or adverse opinion. You should consider the effect on financial audit report. Okay. Now you have to obtain written representation from management and TCWG. What you have to obtain? That effects of uncorrected misstatements are immaterial to financial statement as a whole. Okay. If the TCW is saying, okay, this is not correctable or we won't correct, then you have to consider and you have to take written representation from management TCWG that the effects of uncorrected misstatements are immaterial to financial statement as a whole. Okay. That is, they are less than the materiality amount set by you. Okay. SA 315, risk assessment procedures. The title of the channel is Identifying and Assessing the Risk through Understanding the Entity and Environment. Okay, first we have planned the audit, guys. Okay, now materiality is also set, and now you are comparing materiality with aggregate value of misstatement as per 450. Now in 315, we will look after the internal controls. What are internal controls? They are the policies or procedures set by management and TCWG. Okay, so that the entity's objectives are met. Okay, to prevent fraud, to timely record the transactions and everything. For the smooth functioning of the entity, some controls are set by the management. Those are known as internal controls. In this, we will gain an understanding of internal controls as 315. Okay, risk assessment procedure and related activities. RAP do not provide alone sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Okay, here we are just assessing the risk. Okay, we are just gaining understanding of internal controls. This is not providing any sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Okay, what does this include? RAP risk assessment procedure includes inquiries of management. Okay, analytical procedures, observation and inspection. This is very general, guys. Okay, by performing this, you can obtain understanding of the internal controls. Now, other engagements. See, if you have done some tax audit or something like that for the same client, those also will provide you a basis of understanding the internal controls and risk assessment procedures. Previous engagements and changes. Suppose for the last year also you have audited, so that also will provide you knowledge and changes if any. Last year, this year, if there are any changes, you have to record those also. Engagement team discuss susceptibility to misstatement. You should discuss with your engagement team what are the chances of misstatement, in which areas there are chances. Okay, this will provide you RAP related activities. Okay, now after performing all these, you should be able to write down a list. Okay, these are the areas in which the entity can have risk. Okay, so that me as an auditor should be obtaining more evidence in these areas. Okay, now understanding the entity and environment. Okay, how can you understand entity? By relevant industry, regulatory and external factors. Okay, relevant industry, which industry is it operating? Regulatory and external factors. For example, if you take a petroleum industry, the risk of fire, is much greater for petroleum industry when compared to other industries. In the same way, for a software company, the risk of hacking is more when compared to other industries. Okay, depending upon the industry regulatory factors, also risk changes. Okay, we should have an understanding of nature of operations, ownership, governance, and types of investments of the entity. Okay, accounting policies followed and changes made. Okay, objectives and strategies of the entity's financial performance. Okay, by seeing those, you can understand the entity and environment. Okay, now understanding the relevant internal controls. How can you understand? By looking at the control environment. What is control environment? See, company is nothing but managed by people. That is management, TCWG, employees work there. The culture of honesty and ethical behavior. What is the culture there? If management is really honest, then there is a chance for good controls and good internal control. So there should be overall culture of honesty and ethical behavior by all those people there. Next, entity's risk assessment procedure. See, the entity also will be having some risk assessment procedures. Okay, if established, if there are some RIP established, then you should obtain understanding. Okay, if it is not established, discuss with management how they have been addressed. Okay, now information system. Every entity has some information system, guys. There are 6 points. Okay, which is like a homework to you. It's very easy. You study those from the material. Okay, now communication between management and TCWG. Okay, there's maybe some communication between management and TCWG. You can check those in the minutes of the meeting somewhere else. Okay, what are the communication made? Is there any risk involved in it? You can check those. Now, external communication with regulatory authorities, for example GST authorities, okay, CBDT, or some regulatory authorities. Normally we don't communicate with them unless there is some issue. So if there is any communication, you should check if there is any risk involved in that. Okay, now monitoring of internal controls. You should continuously monitor the internal controls. Okay, now by performing this, I have already said you should be obtaining a list. If I give you white paper, you should be able to write down all the risk areas. Okay, now identify and assess risk. This may be at two levels: financial statement level or assertion level. Financial statement level means as a whole on the company. Assertions are representations made by the management embodied in the financial statements. Okay, now you should identify the risks involved. What are the risks? By performing these factors, you can identify, assess, and evaluate. Okay, what is the impact of that risk? You should be assessing and evaluating. See what can go wrong. Now, the example I have taken, petroleum industry, petroleum company, you have identified that fire is a risk. Now assess and evaluate. If happens, what is the effect? Now see what can go wrong. Okay, how the, what can go wrong? You should be able to see. Likelihood of misstatement. Likelihood means possibility. What is the possibility of misstatement involved if it happens? Okay, this is nothing but identifying and assessing the risk. This is SA 315. Now, this is very important, guys. Audit procedures are two types: risk assessment procedures as per SA 315 and other audit procedures as per SA 330. Other audit procedures may be of two types. One is compliance procedures. Compliance means testing of internal controls. It is also known as test of controls. The other one is substantive procedures. Substantive procedures means detecting material misstatements at assertion level. This may be of two types: test of details and analytical review procedures. Test of details means vouching and verification. Vouching is for transactions, verification is for balances. Okay, you also know about vouching and verification. This is the audit procedure. 315, 330. 330 involves these two. Okay, 315 we have studied. We will study 330. Okay. Now, first you have assessed risk as per 315. Also assessed. This risk will be arising at management level. Okay. Now, for this risk, if controls are set up, now you will test controls. That is known as test of controls. It is compliance procedures. Okay. If controls are effective, then you will perform less substantive procedures. If it is not ineffective, you will perform more of substantive procedures. That means you have to ultimately obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Okay. If controls are effective, then you will perform less of substantive procedures. If not effective, you will perform more of substantive procedures. If there are no controls only, then there is no choice for you. You will perform substantive procedures only. Understood? Now, compliance procedures help in determining the NTE of substantive procedures. This is very important. Okay. Now, I'll make you understand SA 315, 330, and all of those by taking this example. Okay. For example, there is a company. The company is labor intensive company. That means there are some, say, 10,000 labor are working in the company. You have taken SA 315 risk assessment procedures. As per that, you have identified that salary or wages to workers form a high portion of your expenses. Okay, so that is a risk area you have identified there. So you have to see the internal controls regarding the wages paid to workers. Okay, that is as per SA 315. Now, suppose if there is biometric attendance for in and out, that is if the worker is coming in, he has to put biometric attendance, and he is going out also, he has to put biometric attendance. So there is very strong internal control. So if there is strong and effective internal control, you will be performing less substantive procedures. That means obviously you have to perform substantive procedures. That is, you have to manually check the vouchers, salary slips of those workers, or their bank account balances. You have to check those. Okay, you'll be performing less substantive procedures. Now, the second case, there is only biometric for in time only. The worker is coming and putting biometric, but when he is going out, he is not putting a uh, out biometric. That means there is a possibility of the worker putting only in and going itself there. Okay, he will not work. So there are internal controls here also, but that is ineffective. Okay, then you will be performing more substantive procedures. You will be performing more watching, more verification, and more analytical review procedures there. Okay. Now, if there is only manual attendance, there is no biometric at all. Now, there is no choice left for you. There is no controls, so you will perform substantive procedures only. All test of details, analytical review procedures. Based on this only, you will have to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Okay, this is the best example I can give to you. Now, for SA 330, we will go to this. Okay, SA 330 auditors responses to assessed risk. As per SA 315, you have assessed risk. SA 330 is the response to assessed risk. What are your responses now? Now, definition. What is substantive procedures? Audit procedures designed to detect material misstatement at assertion level. Okay, assertions means I have told you. Substantive procedures comprise test of details and analytical review procedures. Okay, now test of controls. What is test of controls? An audit procedure designed to evaluate the operating effectiveness of controls in preventing and detecting correcting material misstatement at assertion level. This is test of control, test of internal controls. Now, overall responses. The auditor shall design and implement overall responses to address the assessed risk of material misstatement at the financial statement level. Now, audit is responsive to the assessed risk of material misstatement at the assertion level. The auditor shall design and perform further audit procedures whose nature, typing, and extent are based on and responsive to the assessed risk of material misstatement at the assertion level. Okay, he will consider inherent risk and control risk. Okay, inherent risk means we have discussed earlier. Control risk also we have discussed. Okay, Obtain more persuasive audit evidence. The higher the auditor's measurement of risk. Okay, if the risk is high, you should obtain more audit evidence. That is the overall thing mentioned here. Test of controls. The auditor shall design and perform test of controls when he expects that the controls are operating effectively, or substantive procedures alone cannot provide sufficient appropriate audit evidence at the session level. We have taken the example there, okay? Now, nature and extent of controls. In designing and performing test of controls, the auditor shall perform other audit procedures in combination with inquiry to obtain audit evidence about the operating effectiveness of controls. Okay, along with testing controls, operating effectiveness, you have to inquire. Okay, whoever is involved with controls. The controls were applied at relevant times. How are they applied? The consistency with which they are applied. See, it is not a one-time control. One time it happens, other time it doesn't. It should be not like that. Okay, it should be consistent. By whom or by what means they are applied. Okay, who is applying the controls? You should check that also. Now, using audit evidence obtained during an interim period. When the auditor obtains audit evidence about the operating effectiveness controls during interim period, the auditor shall obtain audit evidence about significant changes to those controls subsequent to the interim period and determine the additional audit evidence to be obtained for the remaining period. See, for example, if the audit is for 12 months, on the 6th month, you have obtained some audit evidence, but you are reporting at the end of 12 months. Okay, now for the remaining 6 months, you have to see if there are any significant changes. Okay, and you have to determine if any additional audit evidence is required for the remaining period, remaining 6 months. Okay, now using audit evidence obtained in previous audits for the last year also you have audited, for example. Now, whether you can use those evidences or not, okay, the auditor shall establish the continuing relevance of that evidence by obtaining audit evidence about whether significant changes in those controls have occurred or not. If there is any significant changes, you should perform again. If there are no significant changes, you can take those evidences. If there have been changes, the auditor shall test the controls in the current audit. If there have not been such changes, the auditor shall test the control set at least once in every third audit. See, even if there are no changes, even if everything is same, for every third audit, you have to check those controls and test them. Okay. Otherwise, you have to check for every year. No. Controls over significant risks. When the auditor plans to rely on controls over a risk the auditor has determined to be a significant risk, the auditor shall test those controls in the current period. We will discuss what is significant risk. Okay. Now, evaluating the operating effectiveness of controls. The auditor shall evaluate whether misstatements that have been detected by substantive procedures indicate that controls are not operating effectively. Substantive procedures, you have taken them, you have come to conclusion that controls are not operating effectively. Even if there are no identified misstatements, controls may not be effective. We have already discussed in the previous video. If even if there are no misstatements identified, that doesn't mean that controls are effective. Controls may be ineffective and there may be no misstatements at all. You have to look at that also. The auditor shall communicate material weakness in internal control identified during the audit to management and TCWG. As per SA 265, we have discussed it. Okay, communicating internal deficiencies. It is known as letter of weakness. Okay, now specific inquiries by auditors when deviations from controls are detected. Deviation means it is not going the right way. When deviations are detected, the auditor shall make specific inquiries. Specific means point to the point to understand these matters in their potential consequences. What is the consequence of those? And shall determine whether the test of controls have been performed, provide an appropriate basis for reliance of the controls. The test of controls, if it is performed or not. Additional test of controls if necessary or not. The potential risk of misstatement need to addressing using substantive procedures. The potential risk of misstatement. Okay. Now, what is substantive procedures? It is two types: test of details, analytical review procedures. It is now also known as substantive analytical procedures. Now, designing and performing substantive procedures. This is very important line. Irrespective of assessed risk of material misstatement, the auditor shall design and perform substantive procedures. Okay, irrespective of those substantive procedures are compulsory. Okay, there is no chance of escaping this. This requirement reflects the facts that the auditor's assessment of risk is judgmental and may not identify all risk of material misstatement. Obviously, it is judgmental, right? There are inherent limitations to internal control, including management override. Okay, depending on circumstances, the auditor may determine that performing only substantive procedures will be sufficient to reduce audit risk to acceptable low level. Okay, for example, where the auditor's assessment of risk is supported by audit evidence and desktop controls. Okay, now performing only substantive analytical procedures, that is, performing only analytical review procedures. You can conclude audit by only performing those, or only test of details are appropriate, watching verification. Okay, or a combination of both. Okay, now substantive analytical procedures are generally more applicable to large volumes of transactions that tend to predictable over time. Analytical procedures are nothing, guys. We'll study in SA 520. For example, you know what is ratio analysis? Establishing relationship between a financial and non-financial factor, etc. Okay, so that a trend will be arising. Okay, last year this is 10%, now it is 12%. Like that, you can establish a trend. Because the assessment of risk of material misstatement takes account of internal control, the extent of substantive procedures may need to be increased when the results from desktop controls are unsatisfactory. Obviously, if controls are not satisfactory, it will impact the NTE of substantive procedures. Okay, this is SA 330. Now we'll go to SA 402. Before going this, I have to tell you one thing, guys. Significant risk. What is significant risk? Risk that requires special audit considerations. Significant means important, very important. What are those? Risk of fraud. See, in these six areas, you should be applying special audit considerations. Okay, you cannot treat this as normal items in par with others. You should be giving special importance and special focus for these guys. Risk of fraud. Some area, there is a high chance of risk of fraud, so you'll be focusing on that. Recent significant economic or accounting developments, for example, introduction of Ind AS or GST, there is a high chance that the entity will do wrong in those areas. Complexity of transactions. See, there are some complex transactions which are not usual. For example, pending money, receiving allotment. Okay, allotment money which is pending, or share allotment money, like that, which are very complex. Transactions with related parties, there is a chance of fraud happening there also. Degree of subjectivity. Subjectivity means judgment is involved. For example, valuation of inventory or depreciation, contingent liabilities, where there is very judgment in nature. We should have special focus on that. Significant unusual transactions. Unusual means which are not in the usual course of business. In these six areas, you should be having special focus. So these are known as significant risk. The meaning is special audit consideration. Okay, risk that involves special audit consideration. We have done with SA 330. Now we'll go with the last standard for this series, that is SA 402. This is a standalone essay, that is, it is not related to any other standard. The name is Audit Consideration Relating to Entity Using a Service Organization. See, in the recent era, what's happening is, suppose you are a manufacturing company, you are manufacturing some paper, you say, you should also have a finance team, accounts team, for that you have to employ some huge number of employees. That is not related to your manufacturing activity. So what are the companies doing? They are outsourcing to some other companies. Okay, there are many BPOs, KPOs, etc. So they will look after all the accounting work, they will look after taxation, they will look after auditing, everything they will look. So you can focus on your manufacturing activity, right? Now, user entity is the entity you are auditing. The client of us is known as user entity for this standard, and for this standard you are known as user auditor. User entity is audited by user auditor. Okay, this user entity has outsourced its work to other organization, that is known as service organization. Okay, service organization is doing work for us. Okay, we are giving them work. This service organization has some set of controls, that is known as complementary user entity controls. Okay, this service organization is audited by service auditor. This is the overall view before understanding this. Okay, now service auditor will be conducting audit of internal controls of service organizations. Okay, I have to remember that. Now, we as a user auditor, we will be auditing the user entity. What we should do? We should obtain an understanding of the nature of services provided. What are the nature of services provided by the uh, service organization, the user entity? Nature and materiality of transactions. What is the nature of transaction and what is the materiality? Degree of interaction between service organization and user entity, and nature of relationship between service organization and user entity. Should obtain understanding. How to obtain understanding? Use of type 1 and type 2 report. Okay, what is type 1 and type 2 report? See, service auditor will be auditing the service organization and controls of the organization. There are two types of report he can give. One is type 1, that is design description at a specified date. What is design of the controls? What is the description of controls on a specified date for a particular date? Type 2 report, which is more comprehensive. It will give design, description, and operating effectiveness throughout a specified period, for maybe 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Throughout a specified period, it will give design, description, and operating effectiveness. So, which is more comprehensive in nature? Type 2 report is more comprehensive. Type 1 is less comprehensive. Now, we as a user auditor can obtain information by using type 1 or type 2 report, or we can contact the service organization, we can visit the service organization using another auditor for service organization, we can appoint another auditor for service organization, and we can gather the information. Okay, by doing all these things we can obtain an understanding of the outsourced work. Okay, see, the objective is to give an opinion for this user entity, but work is not being performed here. Work is given to service organization, but we are not auditing those organization. So we will take the type 1, type 2 reports. We can contact the service organization, we can visit it, we can appoint another auditor for service organization. By this we can able to form an opinion. Okay, now this type 1 and type 2 report, when we can use, we should check the professional competence of the auditor of service organization. If he is a CA, there is nothing to check. If he is not a CA, we should check his professional competence, whether he is eligible or not, whether he is independent or not, the adequacy of the report. The report, if is covering everything or not, we should check. Okay. Now, the controls of service organization, they are audited by user auditor as a part of compliance procedure. We can also apply SA 330 on the service organization if effective. If we are expecting them to be effective, use of type 2 report if available, because type 2 is more comprehensive. We should use them. Perform appropriate test of controls. We can perform test of controls on them. Use another auditor to perform test of controls. Okay, we can appoint another auditor to perform test of controls. Now, in some cases, service organization will further outsource work to another organization, that is known as sub-service organization. Okay, then what to do? If service auditors report excludes work of service sub-service organization, then perform as a 402 on SSO sub-service organization. You can perform the same standard on SSO also. Reporting by user auditor. What should you report? If unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding service organization, straight away modify. You're not able to obtain evidence, you modify them. No. If your opinion is unmodified, you shall not refer to the work of service auditor. Okay? Because you are giving the opinion, you are responsible for your opinion. You cannot quote the work of service auditor here. If we are giving modified opinion, then refer if relevant to the understanding of modification. If that is the basis for modification, you can refer to the work of him. But that does not diminish the user auditor responsibility, because the final responsibility is yours. You have to take full responsibility. It should not diminish your responsibility. You have to take care of that. Right? This is essay 402. We have completed all the 300 and 400 series essay, guys. Now finally, some important points. Okay. Linking essay 315 with 265 and 330. 315 is RAP, risk assessment procedures, by understanding entity and its environment. 265 is communicating internal deficiencies to TCWG. Okay, you'll perform RAP as per SS 315, and if you find any deficiencies, you should report as per SS 35. SA 315 and 330 are given in combination most of the times, because this is risk assessment procedures. This is response to assess risk. So you should combine these two and write answers whenever a question is given like this. Now, linking SA 320 with SA 450. We have already taken example of that bucket, right? In 320, you will determine what is materiality. In 450, you will compare materiality level with aggregate value of misstatements. That is the bucket. Linking SA 330 with 505. 330 is response to assessed risk. 505 is obtaining external confirmation. Okay. In response with risk, you can also obtain external confirmation. Okay. Now, audit planning is a continuous process, not a discrete phase. This is a very important line, guys. Audit planning is a continuous process. See, even during performing the audit also, you should be planning the next stage. It is not a one-time thing, right? Segregation of duties. What is segregation meaning is distributing or allocating. No single person should have an independent control over any important aspect of business. That means if one person is recording journal entries, the other person should pass. You know, the some other person should verify the entries, so that one person should not be able to, carry out the flow. No person can carry out the transaction from start to finish. As I said, he cannot record the entries and he cannot post the entries together. There is a high chance of fraud happening there. So there should be different people for different tasks. That is known as segregation of duties. Surprise checks. As the name itself says, surprise. You should be checking surprise. Okay, so that if any fraud is there at any point of time, it will be easily identifiable. You should do surprise check at least once in the course of audit. Okay, at least once at any time. It is a part of normal audit procedures. Okay, as per ICI recommendation, surprise check should be done at least once in the audit, and it is a part of normal audit procedures. Circumstances where risk may arise as per SA 315. This is an important question given in your ICA material, guys. What are the circumstances where risk may arise as per SA 315? Changes in regulatory or operating environment. Okay. Recruitment of new personnel, new or revamped information systems, significant and rapid expansion of operations, incorporating new technologies into production processes, entering into business area for transactions with which an entity has little experience, corporate restructurings, expansion or acquisition of foreign operations, adoption of new accounting principles or changing accounting principles. These are the areas in which risk may arise. Okay, so you should concentrate on these areas. It doesn't mean risk is certain or a fraud is certain in these areas. You should be obtaining more evidence in these areas. Okay, so these are the important questions which is covered in your ICA material. Whenever you are answering questions regarding these essays, please keep these points in mind. Okay, guys. So this is the whole 300 and 400 series. Thank you for watching, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.